Money Multipliers. Welcome back to another episode of the Money Multiplier podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Kessler, and we ask ourselves, do our dollars make sense? I have been hitting the road, y'all. It has been a lot. But let me say, if you have the chance to catch Morgan Wallen on his tour right now, do it. So fun. The family and I, we just spent last weekend in Indianapolis and we caught him at the Lucas Oil Stadium. It was mom, dad, Zach, his girlfriend Summer, and myself. Y'all, we had a freaking blast. So go follow me on my other social media channels, my Instagram, Hannah_Kessler, Facebook, and even TikTok, and you can kind of see some of the personal stuff that I've been doing while I'm not teaching about money. Because here's the thing. Money equals freedom. Money equals choices. I have the choice to buy a first-class airline ticket or sit in coach, right? So I just have a huge passion when it comes to money because it allows me to not head up a boss that maybe I don't enjoy, and I can take back my time freedom. I can go to the concert on a Friday night, fly up to Indianapolis on a Thursday because, Hannah manages her own time schedule, right? And that's what we're all after, is truly just the time freedom that we want back. And today's topic is going to be very controversial, if you will, all right, with the mainstream philosophies around money. And we're going to be diving deep into one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal finance and the infinite banking concept, which is debt. Because most people have been taught that all debt is bad. You should avoid it and eliminate it at all costs. But the reality is the wealthy use debt very differently than the average person. So today we're going to be diving into the differences between good debt versus bad debt, what maximum leverage actually means, and how to rethink debt through the lens of a banker, the control, the cash flow, and specifically the infinite banking concept. And before I get into today's topic, I was actually on Facebook last night, and Robert Kiyosaki made a post, and I thought it was very, very interesting. It kind of goes along these lines, but why I bring up Robert Kiyosaki a lot is, obviously he's famous for the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but he has the same mindset as myself and my family when it comes to money, debt, control, leverage, etc., etc. But he made a very interesting post. Now, this is when this episode releases, it's going to be after May 15th, okay? Because, hey, just FYI, May 15th, we had a change in the chair of the Fed, the Federal Reserve System. So I want to read Robert Kiyosaki's post to y'all before we dive in here today. But before I forget, hey, subscribe to the channel, help a girl out over here, like the video, leave a comment down below, and tell me your thoughts, tell me your questions, feedback that you have for me. I'm always here. I'm always open and willing to learn more and more about what y'all are doing and what's working out for you guys in your financial life. But Robert Kiyosaki, he made this post. He says, the Pentagon just released 162 UFO files. The internet went wild. All right, okay, and this came right after, guys, my girlfriend Maddie and I, Maddie was in town, and we were having a little movie marathon one night, and a movie popped up. Emma Stone is in the movie, and it's called Begonia, and it was listed as a comedy. Y'all, that movie is not a comedy. It's satire comedy, okay, I can understand that, but it is not a belly laughing comedy, okay? I was so surprised. I was like, Maddie, what did you just make me watch? But anyways, it gets into aliens and all of that stuff. Anywho's, so go watch Begonia if you have the stomach for it, okay? If you're kind of into, because I love horror films, honestly, and if you're into that vibe and you like aliens and the whole extraterrestrial world out there, good movie, just saying. But anyways, all right, so the Pentagon just released 162 UFO files. The internet went wild. Oil is still at $120. Gas is still $4.60 a gallon. And 1,000 plus people lost their jobs in tech today. I'm not saying the UFO files are not interesting. They are. 162 photos, videos, and documents. Astronauts describing unidentified particles outside their spacecraft in the 1960s. Military pilots filming firefly-like orbs zigzagging across their screens. Decades of unexplained cases now publicly available online. No clearance required. This is genuinely fascinating, and I understand why people are talking about it. But Rich Dad taught me something about attention that I have never forgotten. He said, "Robert, your attention is your most valuable financial asset. The moment someone controls where you look, they control what you miss." Here's what is happening while everybody is looking this up. The Federal Reserve changes hands on May 15th. The most important financial transition in a decade. Almost nobody is discussing it. Private credit defaults just hit 9.2%, the highest ever recorded. 4 of the world's largest financial firms are limiting withdrawals simultaneously. Almost nobody is discussing it. 80 million baby boomers are about to retire with no pension and a 401k pointed at the most dangerous market in 15 years. Almost nobody is discussing it. The dollar is under its most serious pressure since Nixon closed the gold window in 1971. Almost nobody is discussing it. And today, the entire internet is debating whether blurry footage shows aliens. I want to be precise about what I'm saying and what I am not saying. I'm not saying the UFO release is a conspiracy. I'm not saying the government is lying. I'm not saying the UFOs are not worth investigating. The Director of National Intelligence said Friday's release marks the beginning of a continuing process, a careful, comprehensive, and unprecedented review of government holdings. That sounds reasonable to me. Transparency is good. The American people deserve access to information their government has collected. Now, hear me out, all right? Taking a little pause from reading this post. That is why I am so down the middle when it comes to politics. Like, I'm not left, I'm not right, all right? I really identify, I would say, with the Libertarian Party, where it's limited government for the people, giving the banking industry back to the people, tying our dollar back to gold, having limited government intervention. Because we need law and order here. We need fire departments. We need the police here. We need to have some order and structure. I do agree with that, right? But where do you draw the line where it gets to the point of, hey, the people should know this or the people should not know this? You see what I'm saying? Like, just being a young person here in America and like waking up, if you will. Continuing on with Robert Kiyosaki's post. What I'm saying is simpler than any of that. Your attention is finite. Every minute spent debating blurry orbs is a minute not spent understanding what is happening to your money. The wealthy are not watching UFO footage today. They are watching the Fed, watching private credit, watching oil, watching gold. My poor dad spent his life looking at whatever the news told him to look at. My rich dad spent his life looking at what the news was not telling him to look at. Same era, same information, environment, 2 completely different financial outcomes. The files are available online. Go look at it if you're curious. I probably will too, but do not let the extraordinary distract you from the urgent. The Fed chair changes in 7 days at the time of this recording. Private credit is cracking. Oil is at $120. Your retirement is at risk. Those are not as exciting as UFOs. They are considerably more important. And it really just could put you into the mindset of what you have to have. If you want to have it, I truly believe that you can have it, but you can't get caught up. This is where, Nelson Nash would always talk about the noise that's going on out there. I mean, I can tell you from being a zillennial, all right, in cusp of Gen Z, almost millennial, okay, I identify as a zillennial, if I can say so. And I don't even pay for cable. I don't follow and look into what the masses are out there looking at. Or like people in my family, the older generation, they watch the nightly news every single night. They are watching their local news, have it on the TV playing all day long while they're in their office working. And to me, I'm just not going to allow somebody else to take my mindset and shift it and my attention onto something that's not bettering myself, my life, my family's life, and even my community here in Daytona Beach. I've really became more and more passionate about even what's going on here with just our local government, with the sheriff, the mayor, and following what they're doing. Hey, sorry to interrupt the episode here, but I want to take a quick break. If what you're hearing today has made you curious about infinite banking, how it works, I want you to go watch my free presentation. In it, I walk you through the same steps that my family took to pay off $984,000 of debt in 39 months, and how we've been able to recycle and recapture every single dollar since then. This isn't theory. This is real. I mean, this is what the wealthy have been using over 200 years to keep the money within the family. This is literally where banks, conventional banks, store a boatload of their dollars at. And it's the same process that we've helped thousands of families across the country put into action. So go to themoneymultiplier.com/presentation and see for yourself how you can start taking control of your money today. All right, let's get back into the episode. So I just urge y'all to don't get distracted. Yes, I know some of this is fun and we got to have some fun in our lives, okay? I do believe that we're not the only people here on this whole entire freaking universe, all right? That's just my humble opinion. But you cannot allow other people to distract your attention away and dictate how you think and how you behave. Because what you think is going to dictate what you do, and it's going to then dictate the outcome of what you're trying to accomplish and the goal that you're trying to aspire and chase and go after. You see what I'm saying? So to tie it all back to the topic I want to talk about today, which is good debt versus bad debt, you cannot allow other people to come in and say, hey, all debt is bad. You do not want debt. Go and pay off the debt. Eat your rice and beans until you're 60 years old, and then you'll have enough money that you can do whatever you want with in your life. And to me, I do not want to waste all of these years, because time is the only resource that you cannot get back, people. You got to be grateful for every single day that you get to wake up, and you got to romanticize your life even. I know sometimes it can feel like a drag. You're like, oh, okay, now I got to get up. Let me start my coffee. Let me hit the gym. Let me go do my yoga. Let's take a shower. Let's put on some nice clothes, do my makeup, go into the office. Even if you love your job and what you're doing, which you should be. If you hate your job, I don't know what you're doing putting yourself in that position. I get it. We all got to make a living. We got to support ourselves, support the family. But man, I am never ever going to allow somebody else to tell me what I can and cannot do with my time, and especially with my money. See, I actually put out a reel last week, and I was talking about how, when you have to go to banks, you're asking for permission. It's dependency, where me, if I go to my policies, my whole life policies structure for high immediate cash value for this infinite banking concept, I don't have to ask for permission. Literally, the insurance company just says, all right, do you want the max loan that's available? And do you want it sent to you via paper check, or do you want it ACH deposited into your checking account that we have on file with you? That's the only questions that they're asking me. And people were commenting saying, well, hey, if you go to the bank and you got to request a loan, it's not your money. So obviously you have to go through all of the processes to even get that loan. And I get what they were saying, but I was like, no, you're missing my entire point. What I'm specifically talking about is, hey, how about that equity inside of your house? How about your 401k, your IRA, your qualified plan, your money that you're putting into these other asset classes so that it's being controlled and dictated by somebody else. And when you need that money, you have to go and ask permission to use your money. And if you do want to take it out, well, now there's going to be taxes, there's going to be penalties. Maybe there's only specific amount that you can take out. Like my 401k people, some of your accounts, you can only take up to $50,000 of a 401k loan. And then you're required to pay it back to that 401k. I mean, that is not control. You're still within the system, if you will. And I'm not trying to come at this at an angle of being so like conspiracy theory and all that stuff today, but like just hear me out. Just start thinking for yourself and questioning. And I really just want y'all to change your perspective when you start to hear about debt, because you, the consumer to these bankers, you are always programmed to think that debt is bad. It is a payment. It's stress. It's danger. It's an expense to me. I gotta pay them back. I gotta pay them back on time, because if I don't, then they're gonna come and seize whatever collateral that I gave to them, which is correct. But if you understand cash flow in the money game, debt can be used as a great tool and a great asset for you. And how the wealthy people think about debt is we think about it as it's a leverage, it's an opportunity, it's a way for me to produce cash flow. And now I can have this control to go put these dollars into other investments or businesses or asset classes that's going to create me more cash flow and income for myself and my family. So debt itself is not the problem, but unmanaged debt and you having maybe a spending problem, keeping up with the Joneses, that's what's going to keep you in those financial shackles that you don't even realize that you're in. So here's what I actually did last month, all right? Last month, literally on tax day, which, by the way, could we have picked any other day besides tax day? But no, closing had to be done on tax day. So April 15th, get this. And I'm going to brag just for a second because I'm very proud of myself and where I've gotten myself up to this point in my life. But I purchased myself 2 new condos, my first 2 rental condos that I now hold in my investment portfolio. I was doing a lot of lending. That's where I was putting a lot of my dollars at. And that's what got me into the investment world. And I can talk more on that if y'all want me to. Just comment down below if you want me to talk about how I got into lending at a very young age. And it really just comes from Dad teaching us about lending and doing lending with him. And matter of fact, I mean, I know some of y'all, you guys don't know me. And you don't know my family, and you're probably looking at me as like, oh, this is Hannah Kessler. Brent Kessler's her dad, and she got handed everything to her, and she has this stuff because her dad gave it to her. No. My dad's not giving me anything besides the information and the mindset to think about money correctly and accurately, okay? Because let me tell you something. Brent Kessler, once you know my father, number one, when you turn 18, he says, it is no longer my responsibility to keep you alive anymore. He cuts you off. He cut me off and I fell straight on my face. Go listen to my podcast episode titled The Person Behind the Pod. So he cuts you off at 18. Then from there, if you do want to take a loan from the family bank, aka the policies, the bank of Dad, Brent and Terry Kessler, You have to tell them what you're using the money for, how you're going to be paying it back, and your goals or your ideas to create more monies with it, or how you're even going to pay it back, right? Because it could be like for a car or like your house or different things, right? But dad, the family discount interest rate is 13%. You pay 13% interest back to the family bank of the Kessler family bank. All right. I'm paying buku bucks in interest right now. And if I don't pay back my loans, he is just going to come and foreclose on me like any other regular bank would. My dad, literally on my condo here, I'm in my podcast studio here at my house here today recording this. If I do not pay my mortgage payment to dad on time, and he literally texts me. He texts me every single time on the first of the month. Like to the point that I'm like, Dad, you're not great at technology. Do you know how to like schedule text messages? Because it seems like the first of the month, 9 a.m. Hannah, can I deposit your checks today? And I'm like, yeah, Dad, you can deposit the checks. Thanks for asking. Because like what I do is I hand him 12 months of checks for the whole year. And I said, Dad, just keep these, deposit them each and every month so we don't have to play this game every time we go down the road. But if I do not pay that mortgage payment to him, he will come and foreclose on me. He owns the lien on this property with Volusia County. Brent Kessler owns my property. Okay. He is the first position holder on my house until I pay it off with him. So we have to, and this wasn't where my mindset was going, but I do want to bring this up specifically for my families. And when you're creating a family banking for yourself, lack of better words, you need to treat this like it's a business, because it is a business, okay? Yes, I know you are trying to protect your family. You're trying to do good by letting them off the hook for a few months, maybe not even paying you back with any interest at all. Which, by the way, opportunity cost, there's always a cost to your capital, whether you realize it or not. But you have to get disciplined with this because, honey, I love you, but this is business, okay? And Dad says it too. He says, hey, if it ever does come to a time where you cannot pay a payment to me, we'll work it out. But I'm also not going to accept 5 months of non-payment. We're going to probably go and sell the condo and we're going to downsize you into something else. You know, I'm going to make sure that you're not sitting on the streets and starving, but obviously you're not going to have this lifestyle that you have built because you can't pay the payments that you told me 3 years ago that you could, right? So it's a business at the end of the day. Now, after that little soapbox, how does this tie back to good debt versus bad debt? The condos that I just purchased, okay? I went out there and I actually got myself a DSCR loan for these 2 condos, okay? And how did I find these condos? Let me tell y'all. Start hanging around the areas where elite people are hanging out. Okay, I'll tell you right now, being 26 and a half years old, y'all, wealthy people are not hanging out down at the bars. They are not going out to, I don't know, I don't got another example, but you feel me, right? You gotta see, where are these people actually hanging out at, right? They ain't hanging out at McDonald's, they're hanging out at steakhouses. You see what I'm saying? Like, you need to go where these people are at, and you need to connect and network with these people and meet them, okay? Don't get nervous. Don't get nervous when you're meeting people. It's just, that's the fun thing about this human experience that we have. Why am I being so spiritual today? Sorry, y'all. But it's the fun thing that we have here at this human experience is that we get to meet people, we get to share stories, we get to create new moments and new memories. And what's so fascinating to me is I just love to talk to people and say, how did you get here? How did you get here right now? Like the Uber driver that we had going from Indianapolis to the airport on Saturday. He had a cool little story. Grew up in the Bronx in New York City. Now he's in Indianapolis. And we were just asking him questions. Well, why did you move here? Why Indy? And just getting to know how he got to where he's at. doing what he's doing now. And then also, hey, here's a little side tip too, always be marketing. I always turn people onto the podcast and different things that I'm doing. So, hey, Mr. Uber driver, if you're listening, hi, it was a pleasure to meet you. And I appreciate you for bringing back my hat to me. That's a whole other story we can get into. But back to April 15th, I purchased myself 2 new condos. And how I met this gentleman is he actually was at a RIA. We were speaking at a local RIA. And he was there because he's a real estate investor. And he grasped on, we did our presentation on the infinite banking concept. He totally understood it because he understood good debt, right? That's what your policy is. I mean, you're leveraging good debt. You're leveraging the cash value, the death benefit on your policy to tap into the equity in your policy to then go do other things with it, right? I mean, it's literally the same thing. You're leveraging good debt within your whole life policies. So he understood that because he's a very seasoned real estate investor. He has over 400 doors. So I'm like, okay, you know your stuff. You know what you're doing over there. You've been doing this for almost 30 years now. Hey, coach me, mentor me. What can we do together? And so actually he was at the Tampa event. Okay. So Tampa Money Master the Game that just happened in this past February. He was there and we were catching up, okay? Because what's kind of fun about this business is that, it kind of starts off with like a business relationship, but then it kind of grows into that personal relationship. And I would look at him as a friend now. He's friends, he's family, we're all just on the same train going down the tracks together, right? And so we just talk about stuff. The conversations are just different, right? But him and I were talking and I was just expressing to him how I haven't cracked the code on the tax game quite yet, okay? Doing a lot of lending, it has not helped me on my tax side. Yes, it's great for cash flow, but it sucks when it comes to taxes and taxable income. So I was like, hey, I am needing some guidance. What are you doing over there? I know you own a lot of property, and I know that is why a lot of people get into buying real estate in that manner so that we can have some depreciation. You can do cost seg. You can start financing some of this stuff. And if it makes sense, that debt, as Robert Kiyosaki says, debt equals tax-free money. What are your suggestions? What would you tell me as me, because I'm the same age as his daughter. I said, if I was your daughter, what would you be telling me right now? And what changes should I be making in my financial strategies right now to get me to that next level? And so we came upon the topic of he had a need to want to buy a house in South Florida because that's where his daughter is living at right now while she's continuing on her college education. And he's like, hey, well, I really want a house down in South Florida so I can be around her and be with her from time to time. And I am looking to do a 1031 exchange. I have 2 condos up in Atlantic City, New Jersey that I'm looking to sell because I want to go and do this 1031 exchange. So Hannah, I think it's a great win-win scenario. Buy these 2 condos from me. I am going to be your mentor here. I'm going to show you how I'm legally minimizing my tax bill every single year. And then you're also helping me because now I can do a 1031 exchange into this property down in South Florida. And that's a whole other long tangent. I don't want to get into it right now, but my biggest pet peeve too is with the people with the scarcity financial mindset. They think, oh, in order for somebody else to win, I have to lose. No. A good deal is a win-win situation, a win-win scenario. Also a good deal too, I learned this from my father, is when both parties walk away a little bit unhappy. Okay, there's some compromise there. It's almost like a marriage, right? But he needed the 1031 exchange so that he could minimize his tax liability. And I'm trying to minimize my tax liability by buying pieces of property, okay? And what I did is I could have just totally financed these 2 condos outright with the cash values from my policies, and I could have liquidated some of my investments that I do have. But instead, what I did is I came to the table with 20%. I came to the table with 20%, and then I financed the rest of it through a DSCR loan. Now, DSCR, hold on, let's look this up real quick, just for my people who are DSCR loan. Let me give you like an accurate explanation. All right, a DSCR. A debt service coverage ratio loan is an investment property mortgage that qualifies borrowers based on the property's cash flow rather than personal income. So that's what I just started learning about DSCR loans about 2 years ago when I was going out and speaking at Tom Olson's events, Good Success up in Gary, Indiana. Reach out to me if you're in that area. You want to go and connect with these folks. But I just started learning about DSCR loans from Katie Capital to husband and wife up there, and they were speakers too. And I was listening, and I was hearing what they were saying. And so I went through the process and I qualified for this DSCR loan. And it makes sense to take out this loan because then I'm not sucking up every liquid capital or cash into this property now. Now I only had to come to the table with 20%, and it made sense because literally when I closed on the properties, I bought them. And now there's actually $45,000 worth of equity inside of those two condos. I'm combining them together, okay? So $45,000 together in immediate equity after I close. So now I got even more leverage up there in those two properties that I could tap into. And I didn't suck in all of my liquid capital into it. I financed the rest of the deal because now that financing, debt equals tax-free money. So I'm just utilizing the cash flow game, even though, yeah, it's debt. Debt equals bad to a lot of people. But to me, it's solving problems that if I wouldn't have taken out this DSCR loan, I couldn't utilize it for some of the tax minimization. Is minimization a word? Okay, if not, it is now. But minimizing the taxes that I got to pay on the other earned income that I do have coming in. So I've been learning a lot. And trust me, I am no expert in the tax game, okay? I've been really doing my due diligence. It all started with the book Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. And Tom Wheelwright is Robert Kiyosaki's CPA. So I started following him. I listened to his podcast as well. And then I've also been following these people who are very successful in these different realms that I also want to be successful in, right? Don't reinvent the wheel, okay? A lot of people think that, oh, I got to go do this all by myself. No. Get yourself a mentor. Follow the people who are living the lifestyle that you want to live and literally just copy and imitate exactly what they're doing, all right? That's what I'm trying to do, like trying to follow the footprints of my father. All right, Dad's got rental properties. Dad, why you got all these rental properties? You got some short-term, mid-terms, you got some long-terms, why do you own all of this? What are you doing on the tax side, And that's, no, we don't got to go down that whole rabbit hole. Sorry, I'm yapping today. But anyways, I'm very excited about this, okay? Because I came to the table with that 20%, then I financed the rest of it, that 80%. And yeah, I have to pay a monthly payment on this. And yeah, now I have the insurance costs on these properties. I also have to pay the fees of the property management company over there as well. But all in all, now at the end of it, these properties cash flow $300 a month to me. So I'm racking in about $5,000 a month from both of them. And my overhead costs with the DSCR loan and the management company, insurance, everything comes out to about $4,700 each month. So I'm keeping $300. So when you look at a deal, a lot of people like to look at properties just from the cash flow perspective, and that might not sound very exciting to you. $300, yeah, that's not a whole lot of money. I'm trying to cash flow way more than that. But hear me out. I'm not doing it for the cash flow perspective of it. I have the cash flow coming in from the private lending that I like to do. That's my cash flow, and the active income from my teaching infinite banking, right? I mean, how I get paid is from the insurance companies. So that's my income that's coming in. And again, I'm trying to offset that income too, even from like the perspective of the active working income, like selling policies, helping people start their journey of the infinite banking concept, shifting that income to my passive monies, okay? Rentals, lending, oil and gas, stock options trading. Once I figure out the tax code game, then I'm going to start getting into stock options trading, because I know a lot of people. I saw this one guy, he's a client of ours, and he, in the last 6 months following Larry Steinhaus's training on stock options trading, Larry's like is kind of making jokes. He's like, nobody wants to talk about real estate investing anymore. They just want to talk about stock options trading, because this one gentleman in 6 months made 50% returns on his options trades that he does. And I'm like, okay, I think I got to figure that game out first, but we're taking little steps at a time. All right. I'm not trying to totally off myself over here by learning everything right now, but I'm putting things into priorities and perspectives. And so right now my priority is my taxes, getting that under control and figuring out the tax game. And then from there, let's now shift and let's start building up more of that passive monies that's coming in. Because you really got to think, like, what life do you want to live, Because I can say for myself, and getting deeper into like my core and just really identifying who I am at my authentic level, what do I want out of my life? Like, actually, for the longest time, I didn't even think I wanted to have babies. But now I'm kind of to the point, even though I'm single, at some point, I think I do want to have a family, I think I do want to have little Hannahs running around. No more than 2, okay? 1, 2 at max, all right? But I've gotten to that point where I'm like, maybe I do want to like settle down and have a family one day, and I want to have kids, and I want to experience that out of this lifetime. And so I am cultivating this life where, number one, I wake up every single day and I don't care what day of the week that it is. That's important to me. But then number 2, working hard, very, very hard, just grinding out these 10 years so that when I get to that point that I want to settle down and have a family, I can literally just focus on being a mother, and I can just focus on raising the kids, homeschooling them if that's what I choose, or sending them to private school. I even had a perspective change on like homeschooling, because actually for the longest time I thought I did want to like homeschool my children, because actually Grant Cardone, that's what he does with Sabrina and Scarlett, if you follow them and their whole family. But maybe private school, we'll see. But I'm really cultivating this life so that my money doesn't dictate how I spend my time, and then I can just focus solely on being a mother and being there, taking care of the household. And it's just freedom. That is what freedom feels like to me, but that's what I want. You know what I mean? That might not be what you want. And so I just urge you to get to that place within your life and just in your mind of, what do I truly want out of this lifetime? Because remember, there's only one life to live here. Speaking of that whole thing, matter of fact, we were watching Jumanji. I've already seen it. It was the remake of Jumanji with like Jack Black and The Rock and all of that. And I watched it with mom and dad. And the biggest takeaway, like rewatching it again, like a few years later, is like in the game Jumanji, they had like their lives tattooed on their arms. They have 3 different lives, and then when like Jack Black's character, like opening scene, gets eaten by the hippopotamus that comes up, then like one of his lives goes away, and they all get down to the last point where they only have 1 life. And it was The Rock, who is the nerdy kid playing The Rock, anyways, go watch the movie. But he goes, you only have 1 life anyways on this earth, so live it to its full extent. There's no failures within this life. I just think that there's lessons, and sometimes there might be very expensive lessons. I've definitely felt some very expensive lessons, but I don't look at any of the failures in my life as it's down to me. You always have to shape that perspective and the attitude. So just to bring it back full circle to the good debt versus bad debt, you need to understand that debt and bad debt is mostly used for the consumption, the depreciating assets, the emotional spending. Okay, so bad debt is something that I can go and buy, but it doesn't create me cash flow. There's no returns that are being created for me. A lot of it is like consumer debt, like the credit cards and other things. I mean, even like student loans to some point, yeah, I know student loans could be viewed as like a good debt because, hey, I'm investing in my education so that in the future I can go and be that doctor, make the $600,000 a year. So like I get that, but there's a lot of variables to it. I mean, that's why I love being an entrepreneur. I love being into real estate because I can control some of the risks that I'm taking with my money and the debt that I am taking on, because I know that there's always going to be a need for housing, right? I don't have to go and apply to different jobs like maybe a doctor does at a hospital. But again, maybe, we're always going to need doctors. Anyways, I'm going down another deep rabbit hole. But that is what bad debt looks like. And so good debt is attached to the cash flowing assets, the appreciating assets. There are tax advantages to good debt. There's business growth and there's strategic leverage here. So as I mentioned with the real estate, business financing, asset-backed borrowing, policy loans, if you will, from your whole life contracts. Good debt buys assets and bad debt buys liabilities. And one thing I actually learned from the Cardone family is that they will use their earned income to go buy cash flowing assets. And then the cash flow from the assets is what funds the fun experiences and fun toys that they have in life. Like, Grant Cardone's got his helicopters, he's got the boats and different properties, right? And so when they're going out and buying those fun toys, they're doing it in the manner that not their earned income is funding for it, but it's the passive monies that come in. That's what funds for the fun lifestyle things. And again, don't reinvent the wheel. You just got to copy and imitate exactly what the elite and the wealthy are doing. Now, before I leave y'all here today, there is a psychology around this debt. It's a lot of fear-based. We're taught that emotionally debt is bad. And a lot of y'all have probably experienced bad debt. I know, like for my family, mom and dad have definitely experienced the bad debt. But for wealthy people, debt isn't emotional. It's mathematical, it's strategic, and it's controlled. And fear-based money decisions create small financial lives. Debt is dangerous when you lack the control. Is debt for everybody? No. Even the infinite banking concept. Is the infinite banking concept for everybody? I think yes. But, big old but, underline B-U-T, underline, put it in bold, it requires discipline. You have to be disciplined with this stuff, y'all. You have to understand that, hey, even though I can afford this, should I be buying it? Probably not, okay? You have to have those honest conversations with yourself and not allow emotion to drive the factors of that makes you want to spend your money on X, Y, and Z or not. So you need to understand the strategy. You need to understand that there's discipline here, and leverage without the financial education becomes financial destruction. I want y'all to reach out to me, okay? No, I'm not a financial advisor, okay? I'm just on this road along with y'all, all right? I teach the infinite banking concept. That's what I do. I eat, live, and breathe this stuff because that's just what I do in my own life with my 8 policies that I personally own. And I'm here to help y'all along this journey because our Robert Kiyosaki post, hey, a lot of you baby boomers are now going into the retirement years where there's going to be a lot of downtimes in the market right now. If you study up and you know history repeats itself because we're humans and we can never figure it out the first time. But sorry, that was sassy. But history does repeat itself, and if you kind of see the trends and where we're going right now, there's going to be a correction happening. And specifically, I'm kind of anxious to see what's going to happen this month. All right. I know this episode is coming out later on in May, and there's going to be more updates that we'll know by the time this is posted out. But come and follow me on the live streams, which is live every week, Thursday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern time. It gets posted up here on the YouTube channel, The Money Multiplier, also on my personal YouTube channel, Hannah Kessler, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. It also goes out there too. And if you can't catch it live, you can catch the recordings on the YouTube channels. If you just go to the YouTube and you search up the little live button on there, you'll click that live and then you can see all the past episodes, and then also podcasts. All right. You search up Money Mornings with Hannah. You can catch the past episodes that I've done of the live streams, but follow along. All right. I just want y'all to be aware, be in the know, because quoting Nelson Nash, if you know what's going on, you'll know what to do. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today, it's this: debt is not automatically bad, and paying cash is not automatically smart. The wealthy think differently because they understand something most people never learn. Control of cash flow matters more than avoiding debt altogether. Bad debt consumes your future. Good debt can help build it. And specifically with the infinite banking concept, it gives you a system where you can store your money to continue to grow, leverage it while you're using it at the same time. This isn't about becoming reckless with the leverage, okay? Because again, it requires discipline. It's about becoming intentional with it. And that's my word for 2026. I literally said intentional is my 2026 word. How I feed my mind, how I feed my body, what foods I put into it, how I exercise, doing my walking every day, doing the yoga, hitting the gym, lifting weights. You got to be intentional, because if you're not, somebody else is going to dictate your time, your body, what you feed yourself, fuel your mind. And this is your life, okay? Seriously, this is your life, and we are all just living in it, all right? For me, this is Hannah's world, and y'all are just living in Hannah's world, okay? So just treat yourself as your number one asset, because at the end of the day, you're going to finance life either way. The real question is, are you financing your future for yourself or for somebody else and for somebody else's bank? So if you want to get deeper into this, reach out, send me an email, podcast@themoneymultiplier.com. Go to themoneymultiplier.com as well, and you can also see our recorded presentation, live events that we're speaking at around the country, because actually coming up next month in June, I'm going to be coming out to you, California. All right. I hear all of you Californians, you guys get grumpy with me because I never go out there, but I'm going to be in the LA area, speaking in LA and Hollywood. So holler at me if you want to come in, be at that event. I got some tickets I can give away. And remember, y'all, the goal isn't to eliminate every dollar of debt. It's to maximize control, maximize opportunity, and keep your money working longer. Until next time, be well, do good, and I'm always here if you need me. Reach out. Mwah. I'll see you next week, Money Multiplier community. See you then. If you really enjoyed this episode, you'll really like this one.